Have you ever sat across the table from the person you love most in the world and felt like there was a 1,000 mile canyon between the two of you? I mean, you're speaking the same language, you're talking about the same problems, but somehow nothing is getting through. It's frustrating, it's exhausting, and honestly, it's lonely. I'll be honest, I've been there before. You possibly have too. Maybe you're even there right now. Hey, it's Brian from Love How Deep, and today I'm talking to every couple who feels like they're stuck in a loop of misunderstanding. And we're going to look at why our communication breaks down and 3 shifts you can make today to bridge that gap. And this isn't just about talking more, it's about really connecting deeper. So stick around because we're going to get practical. And so, to start off with, if you've ever been in an argument with your spouse, a disagreement, a lot of times you're arguing and disagreeing about this silly little surface issue. Maybe it's picking up the kids after school, or and I don't want to call I shouldn't call it silly, but it's a surface issue. So, or maybe it's taking out the trash. Maybe it's your responsibility to take out the trash and you didn't do it, and then all of a sudden your spouse is on you and critical and just, why are you not doing what I'm asking you to do? You never take out the trash, and just this barrage of criticism. But really, what's happening, you're just banging heads about this issue that's on the surface, but in reality, it's really about a longing that's going on under the surface. Like there's something there, and let's just take the taking out the trash for example. There's a potential that your spouse is longing for consistency and reliability and terms like that in you. You might be longing for trust and the ability to kind of do your own thing, so to speak. And in reality, when you're arguing about the trash, it's potentially happening that, she's arguing about your reliability and you're arguing about trust. And if you're just, again, banging your heads against each other when it comes to that, then it's going to be tough. But I'm going to help you with that. But I remember several years ago, Heather and I were looking at selling our house, and for some reason, I was really caught up in wanting to make repairs on the old house. Like we got to get everything squared away. We got everything get everything looking good for the potential purchase and putting it on the market, so to speak. And then, but Heather was more interested in the new house and like what can we do and what things can we buy and how can we decorate, and there was some mild tension there for a while. And then I don't know what happened one day. I mean, I'll take the blame for it, I suppose. I don't know if I was just completely just riddled with anxiety about the current house and the things that we had to do, but it just got really off the rails and we were just kind of going at it, and I mean it got extremely heated, and I've never actually done this before. I'm not really proud of it, but I was just so angry, so upset. I actually ended up leaving the house, got in the car. I remember driving to the Walmart parking lot, and I just sat in the parking lot for a while, just stewing, just angry, just upset. And I guess at some point God started to work on me and was kind of like, "What are you doing? You're sitting here arguing over this issue, which is really not important, but yet it is, because again, it's really at the core of it all." And Heather and I had some discussions about this, and finally came to an understanding of like, I just really wanted our current home to be the best that it could be, wanted to be able to make the most amount of money that we could from the sale of it. She was coming at from a standpoint of like, hey, we got something new. We're gonna have to make some decisions pretty quickly. We're gonna be moving in. Let's get these things squared away before we kind of get everything all moved in, because we'll have kind of a barren house that is almost like a, what would you call that? Like a clean canvas, so to speak. And when the tempers came down, we started to talk through that. She started to understand where I was coming from. I understood where she was coming from. So we understood that there was a core issue at play, that we were kind of banging our heads, against each other. And so, in the heat of the moment, your brain is going to go into what's called fight or flight. You're not listening to understand, you're really listening to win. And that's, of course, exactly what was happening for us. And so I want to give you a tool. It's called the 10-second buffer. So when your spouse finishes sharing something, especially if it's hard to hear, I want you to wait a full 10 seconds before you respond. And it might be good to actually let your spouse know that this is what you're doing. And maybe you even talk about this 10-second buffer even before you get into your next disagreement, because obviously if you just stop and you don't say anything, then it's going to appear like you shut down, and your spouse is not going to be very happy with you, and it's going to look like something called stonewalling. John Gottman's famous for this one, great couples researcher that said that when you stonewall or you shut down, it's not good. So you're going to have to make sure that you explain what you're doing. But again, the reason that you want to do the 10 seconds is it's kind of a safety net. It really tells your spouse that, what you say matters to me, and I'm really trying to think before I react. And it really stops the cycle of the ping ponging back and forth where you just kind of keep hitting on each other until somebody decides to walk away. You've probably seen tennis matches before where they're just completely going at it. I mean, it's just an amazing kind of back and forth. And then eventually someone just tires out. And then there's either some kind of unforced error or something along those lines where it just kind of completely derails the point for the professionals out there on the court. So, and the same thing can happen in your marriage, obviously. When you're ping ponging so much, somebody's going to get burned out, and there's going to be a problem. So, that's what I would ask you to do for the next part. Another part is what I call creating a vulnerability culture, and it means that real communication really requires a safety zone. So if one person is honest and the other person uses honesty as a weapon later, the communication is going to die. I mean, period. Both of you have to commit to being a safe place for each other's messiness. You have to be able to say, I'm struggling without the fear of being judged. And that can be hard because a lot of times we have the best intentions. So it might be something along the lines of, I'm upset here about this, and if you too quickly go into like solution mode and you're trying to fix it, that can come across as like you don't care, which it sounds strange, but it's true. Or, if your spouse is not, like, for example, yesterday, Heather had developed some kind of just like a rash basically, and was just irritated with it and kind of complaining about it. She even recognized and realized that she was complaining about it, but she said, I'm really hurting. I'm really frustrated with this whole thing. And I tried to be as empathetic as I could and say things like, I'm sorry that you're feeling this way and this really stinks. And, and I was, being genuine, of course. And really that really helped the conversation continue. And, she said things like, thank you so much. Thank you for caring. And a lot of times it doesn't take needing to solve the problem or whatever. And it also doesn't mean that we get frustrated and irritated because our spouse is upset. I see that one a lot too. And it's not easy if your spouse has been upset and irritated over the same thing constantly over and over again. Like, for example, maybe there's a work situation with a coworker and they come home every day for 5 days and they just complain about it. Well, of course, you're going to get to this place of being like, can you just talk to the coworker, or what are you going to do about it? Again, kind of going back to that solution mode. And, or maybe you're just like tired of talking about it. You shut them down. You want to change the subject, do something different. But again, over time, that's going to really erode your relationship, and it's going to cause the relationship really not to go in the place that it needs to go in. And so, as God says in His Word, we should be slow to speak, slow to anger, and really use our words to build up, not tear down, especially when our spouse is coming to us with something that's upsetting. And you've probably heard this too before, but I like to say, okay, if this was me in this situation, I was complaining, I was frustrated, how would I want my spouse to talk to me? Of course, I wouldn't want them to be irritated and frustrated and walk off and not listen to me. And There may be times where you want a solution, and that's okay. I would just ask you to say that, or to, even if you're on the other end of it, ask, hey, would you like some solutions? Would you like to brainstorm? And then if they do, then great, then do it. If not, then stay away from it. Just empathize. And again, you're going to create that vulnerability culture. And you may have heard this too: vulnerability begats vulnerability. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I've had so many situations in my life where if I'm the first one to apologize about a situation, a lot of times what I'll get back from my spouse or whoever else it might be, I'll get back, you know what? I'm sorry too. I messed up and I probably didn't do the things right that I should have done. And a lot of times that really cools things down when you're the first one to kind of be the one to approach the, like apology or taking ownership over a situation. So yeah, so hopefully this was helpful to you today in order to build that culture in your marriage of really coming together. Again, number one, you're thinking all about the problem, the issue under the issue. Number two, you're creating a safety zone where you're, again, maybe taking that 10-second buffer, if you will, the timeout, or not really a timeout, but where you're just slowing things down. And then lastly, again, the vulnerability culture, talking through the issues and being empathetic and caring without going to the solutions. So I hope this has been helpful to you today. If you need any more help, well, number one, please subscribe wherever you are listening or watching this, and you will get all of our great content at lovehowdeep.com. Heather and I have produced a lot of things that can be helpful to you. And one of those things I'm really going to push today, it's a free resource. It's called the 10 Practical Communication Strategies. It's a workbook to help the two of you find some concrete things and ways and ideas in which to talk better to each other. So if you go, I'll provide the link wherever you are listening or watching this, and then download that and then work on it together. And you would be amazed at just some of the things that can come out of doing activities like this. We've seen it with lots of couples before, and I know it can happen for you as well. So thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you love deep, and I will talk to you soon.